Jaguar fans, let's give a huge shout out to the Cincinnati Bengals for going into Nashville, Tennessee and beating our division rival and the Tennessee Titans. Now the Bengals advance to the AFC Championship game, and this Bengals team is an exact replica of what the Jaguars were doing in 2017. The only difference is that the Jaguars had a high-powered defense and the Bengals have a high-powered offense led by Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty, whatever you want to call him. Congratulations to the Bengals fans, and Jaguar fans can relate to Bengals fans because they've been a team and a franchise that's really been searching for a winning culture, and now that they've had their franchise quarterback, he's taken them to a promised land. Hopefully the Jaguars can replicate a model of consistency like the Bengals are doing, and hopefully the Jaguars can get things turned around. Congratulations, Cincinnati fans. But as you guys can see from the title of this video, I'm going to be talking about the Jaguar players that are pending free agency that I want the Jaguars not only back on this team and I want us to re-sign, but also who I wouldn't mind letting walk in free agency in today's video. Before we actually jump ship into today's video, I want to give a shout out to FLteams.com, who I'm partnered and affiliated with. If you guys haven't checked out FLteams.com yet, we do sports articles and blogs every single day regarding sports teams in the state of Florida from the professional and at the collegiate level. So if you guys want to go check out FLteams.com, I will link to them down below. And without further ado, let's get into today's video. So first and foremost, I'm going to talk about the Jaguar players. I don't mind if they walk in free agency, and these guys are all unrestricted free agents. So let's just get right into this. The list goes AJ Cann, Taven Bryan, Tyler Shatley, James O'Shaughnessy, Nevin Lawson, Tavon Austin, Lorente McCray. We saw the incident in Central Florida, but that has nothing to do with this. Jadon Mickens. All my homies love Jadon Mickens, but sorry, bro, we have Jamal Agnew. J.K. Scott, punter. Dare Ungubawale, I still can't pronounce his name correctly. You guys know who I'm referring to, the running back. And Andrew Wingard. All of these guys, they can go. Thank you for your service, but I don't need you anymore. Now let's transition into the guys that I want to re-sign, and I'm going to go in depth with 4 of the guys, but let me talk about the guys that I do want back and re-sign on this team for next season and possibly a long-term extension. DJ Chark, Andrew Norwell, Jihad Ward, Damien Wilson, Trey Herndon, Adam Gottsitz, Jacob Hollister, Laquan Treadwell, Dakota Allen, and Will Richardson. Now, I'm going to talk about DJ Chark, Andrew Norwell, Damien Wilson, and Laquan Treadwell in a little bit more in depth, but when I talk about a guy like Jihad Ward, who came over from the Baltimore Ravens, obviously, as of right now, Joe Cullen is still our defensive coordinator. We'll see if he remains intact as the DC when we get a new head coach in, and hopefully that'll be sooner than later. But with Joe Cullen and Jihad Ward, I think he played some valuable snaps this season, good veteran leadership, and he definitely had his moments where he was in there and getting some sacks alongside Roy Robertson Harris. I'd love to keep him around, maybe on a 1 or 2 year deal. Trey Herndon's been on this team, replacing really Jalen Ramsey alongside AJ Boye since 2019. He kind of had some solid steps in 2019, kind of teetered off a little bit, but I think he's definitely serviceable and cheap. I'd love to get him back. Adam Gottsitz, same thing with Roy Robertson Harris, Malcolm Brown, and Jihad Ward. This guy's played some valuable snaps and definitely had his moments, especially in the running game where he stuffed the A and B gap, and I'd love to see Adam Gottsitz back on a 1 or 2 year deal. He's definitely deserving of it. I think a good veteran guy in that locker room as well. Jacob Hollister, I don't want James O'Shaughnessy back. I'd rather replace him with Jacob Hollister, a guy who I think is a little bit faster and a little bit probably better in the passing game, and he's also 2 years younger. James O'Shaughnessy's been a good tight end for the Jaguars the last couple seasons, but I'd like to see Jacob Hollister back. Dakota Allen, another solid special teams and linebacker player, just a guy for depth. And then Will Richardson, when the Jaguars have had a lot of injuries on the offensive line the past couple of seasons, Will Richardson's been a guy who's came in and stepped up. I'd like to see him back at one of the tackle positions just for depth. Now I'm going to talk about these 4 guys, and I'm going to start with Damien Wilson, the guys I'm going to go a little bit more in depth in why I want these guys back. Damien Wilson came over from the Kansas City Chiefs. I believe he only had signed a 1 year deal with the Jaguars this offseason, but he was second on the team in tackles with 106 tackles on the season. Great middle linebacker, and I think he definitely showed he can play some valuable snaps for this team, and he can also be an anchor in that defensive front 7 for the Jacksonville Jaguars moving forward. He's relatively young. I think he's about 29 years of age he is. And, I wouldn't mind signing him to a 2-3 year deal. I think he's definitely deserving of it alongside Miles Jack. Then you've still got Josh Allen because we play a 3-4 out on the outside. I'd like to see the Jaguars kind of keep that linebacker group intact. I know Shaq Quarterman's there, but unless Shaq Quarterman takes a huge significant leap this offseason, I like to see Damien Wilson back on this team. So now I'm going to go into the offense and talk about a guy in Andrew Norwell. Now, Andrew Norwell, when he came to Jacksonville, coming over from the Carolina Panthers in 2018, I believe he was the highest paid offensive lineman in NFL history at the time when we paid him, and I believe it was Dave Caldwell that gave him that 5-year, $60 million deal, and he never lived up to that hype of the highest paid offensive lineman in the NFL. Far from it. But he's been serviceable. I've definitely seen this guy get beat way too many times in the passing game, and he's definitely gotten pushed around. But at times, Andrew Norwell is a guy that we desperately need on that offensive line, and at least to protect Trevor the next year or two until you can get a guy that you feel comfortable replacing him with, whether that's another veteran or whether that's a guy in possibly Ben Barch, who I wouldn't mind moving over to right guard, which he's played before, and that's why I'm okay with a guy like AJ Cann leaving. Andrew Norwell, I think, should stick around for another year or two. I wouldn't mind paying him about $10 to $15 million. If the money's right, let's get Andrew Norwell back. Now, a guy I want to talk about in the receiving core is Laquan Treadwell before I get to DJ Chark. Now, Laquan Treadwell finished this season off 33 catches, 431 yards, and he had that one touchdown versus Indianapolis in the last game of the season. I saw something special, and I saw something between him and Trevor Lawrence in training camp. When I was going to training camp and I was going to these practices, at the stadium and watching them, there was something that they had there that nobody was talking about. Like, you could clearly see it. And they had that chemistry and continuity together, and you saw it time and time again throughout the season as things continued to progress and as the season, got away from us. But the point is, Laquan Treadwell is a big, athletic, and physical receiver who has all the traits to be a very good receiver. But if he can be a wide receiver 3 or 4 for depth, that would be something amazing. And I think he really likes it here. I see the posts with him and his wife all the time on Instagram, and it looks like they really have a great bond together. And I also see that they get along really well with Marissa Lawrence, Trevor Lawrence's wife as well. So I think that that's something that the Jaguars definitely want to do. Get Laquan Treadwell back. He's got great chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. He's a great depth receiver, and he has the potential, if guys go down, to continue to elevate his game and step up. Now, the biggest Jaguars free agent that's been talked about since the beginning of the season is DJ Chark. DJ Chark we took back in the 2018 NFL draft in the second round, wide receiver out of LSU. Then you fast forward to this year. He appears in 4 games, but in the Cincinnati game, he didn't even make it out of the first quarter before he suffered that ankle injury. And DJ Chark did have some solid stats coming into the game, really. I mean, he finished the season off 22 targets, which led the team, 7 catches and 2 touchdowns, and those 22 targets, through the first 4 weeks of the season. DJ Chark, say what you want, probably, but it would have been wide receiver number 1 for this team, even though Marvin Jones Jr. was phenomenal this year for what we needed him for. DJ Chark does not deserve a long-term extension as of now. I would get him back on a 2-year deal. He's 26 years of age. Re-sign the man. There is zero reason as to why the Jaguars should not want to re-sign him. The Jaguars can have him as a wide receiver 2, hell, maybe even a wide receiver 3 if we do that good in free agency and possibly in the draft. There is zero excuses as to why DJ Chark should be leaving this team. Zero. I don't want to see another Allen Robinson situation. And granted, DJ Chark wasn't putting up A-Rob numbers when A-Rob was here in Jacksonville, but DJ Chark has the potential to be a legit wide receiver number 2 if we get a wide receiver number 1 in free agency or throughout the draft. If Trevor Lawrence continues to progress his game and DJ Chark continues to get back. Even if DJ Chark gets franchise tag, or if he comes back on a 1-year prove-it deal, he needs to be back in Jacksonville. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'd love to get him back at least on a 2-year deal, but as long as he's back in Jacksonville, I want to see him get a fair shot and a fair opportunity at 26 years of age to prove his worth. But Jaguar fans, that's it for this video. I want to hear your thoughts down below on some guys that you want to see back in Jacksonville next year that are impending free agents, and also some guys you guys don't mind seeing walk on and move on and go to another team. Also, if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys check me out on all of my socials. I will link to those down below. I'm very active on there. And if you guys did enjoy the content, make sure you guys drop a like. It takes 1 second. It helps me in the channel out tremendously. Hit that notification bell every time I upload. And also make sure to subscribe if you're new here and you guys enjoy the content. But Brett James, aka BJ, I'm out, y'all. Peace.